adding.
Like I have this like allergic reaction to my own sweat where I start itching uncontrollably. That's the issue.
Oh,
I promise not to
But
put that into the podcast. And on that note, welcome to That Japanese Thing. Today we have a special guest. This is a Japanese podcast. We talk about Japanese things, anime, Japanese culture, movies, so on and so forth. My name's Chris, your host. We've got Dylan and Kevin with us today. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
hello.
Good.
Hello.
Welcome, Kev. I gather it's
Hello.
extremely hot where you are.
Indeed. I am. Well, it's like 32 degrees at the moment, I think. Which is actually
That's
cooler than
not
it's
that
been.
bad. I mean, it's still uncomfortable.
With high humidity, it's
Uncomfortable.
not pleasant. Yeah.
But you just moved sort of mountainwards towards like a valley kind
Indeed.
of area?
I'm currently in Nagano, which is like sort of in central Japan. Which
Yeah.
it's kind of surrounded by mountains, but it's actually not actually that high when you
Yeah.
actually look at the city, because it's like in a really deep sort of valley. But compared to Tokyo recently, Tokyo's been at like 37 degrees
Oof.
for the past week, and people have been like collapsing left and right. Whereas here, the hottest it's been is 34, I think. So
Mm.
at least
Yeah.
it's slightly cooler than the big city.
No,
But,
it's
yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, I've been in Tokyo in the summer before, and I'm sure it's gotten worse, right? Because I know
Yeah, I mean-
everywhere, it seems a little bit hotter in summer.
And it's just, I'm always used to hot temperatures. Even, in South Africa, we had, the 30s once in a while.
Yeah.
But it never felt as hot as it feels here just because of the humidity, because of the different climate in general.
So
You don't get used to it. My body never got used to it. I don't think it ever will. I've been here for,
I mean,
11 years
like
now.
we're not equipped for it, right? I remember, so when I was there in summer, I thought I was gonna die, kind of. You got used to it after like a month or so. It doesn't seem so bad anymore, right? But we went to climb Mount Fuji during the summer because that's basically the only time you can do it. And when you get up to that high sort of altitude, it was just so pleasant because it went from like basically somewhere like from 35 to 40 degrees to like 22. And
Yeah,
it had the
that's bearable.
same kind of like air pressure as we have here in Joburg. So just it was like an instant relief. Like even if you don't want to go climb mountains, I suggest just go somewhere high.
Okay.
It
There's lots of mountains around me I need to go and climb, but just getting there in the first place is such a mission. I don't want to leave my house. So.
Right. I mean, leaving your
Maybe
house
one day.
is terrible. It's scary, and why would you do that if you didn't have to?
Exactly. Way too hot out there.
Okay.
But yeah.
So yeah, today's topic is Kevin, basically. Kevin, if you don't...
We're analyzing you.
Yeah, I mean, generally we
Yeah.
just talk about, like a film or something. But Kevin
Right.
has a lot of experience in Japan. He's been there. How long have you been in Japan now, Kev? 10 years?
This time around, I moved in 2013, so yes, 10 years and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has been a while.
I was obviously there a couple of times in the past as well, so in total, I've lived here for about 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, we would talk a little bit about that. Just to give an introduction, Kevin, how would you describe yourself? Actually, let me just say, you were like a bit of a weeb, to be honest, when we first
Yeah.
met.
I mean, I still am. It just sort of changed the type of weeb, I think. But,
Right,
um,
yeah.
Yeah, but while I was in South Africa, I was very much, the guy that watched every single anime series.
Yeah, I think we met at like an
sing along
anime
to any
convention
Japanese song.
or something.
It was my aunt used to call me anime as a stupid joke, just because I was so addicted to everything anime related. And
And you used to make like little AMVs at some point, didn't you?
I think I tried at some point.
Tried,
I never
yeah.
really got deep into it. I used to watch them a lot, but
Right.
I think I tried making one once, but it didn't go very well.
Okay.
But I loved the AMV scene as well. But yeah, and we always used to have all sorts of anime events and stuff, and I'd always be there, either helping out or even acting as a host once or twice. So
Back in the Otaku Mag days.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually
Indeed.
at your and your brother's school, right? You had a
yes,
like a thing there.
correct.
Yeah.
They had an event that used the staff room. We like convinced it was like a fun. We labeled as a fundraiser for the school.
No, it's strange
Just
because
he wanted a venue.
I'm sure you had similar issues to me because I started like I called it like the visual culture club or something at my school.
Yeah.
But basically we just wanted to watch anime on the big screen in the multimedia room. And
Yes.
like South Africa is such a conservative place that the principal was convinced we were like doing something satanic for a while.
I mean, that totally checks out there.
I mean,
Back in
What you're
those
watching.
days.
There's a lot of things that could definitely be considered that. Yes.
Back in those days, I'm sure principals would be convinced of it.
yeah, well, I mean, what was that? What's that really like? One of the girls in the club wanted to watch that Zodiac anime where all the creatures are like a sign of the Zodiac.
Oh, yeah.
Fruits Basket.
Saint Seiya? Oh,
Fruits Basket. Yeah.
I wouldn't call that one satanic.
No, and like, well, I mean, there certainly are anime, like, you know, but we were like what, like 14 or something. We weren't doing weird things like that at that time. At least I don't think people were. But yeah, so I mean, that's like where you came from. You had like obviously. Was it an interest in like Japanese culture or just Japanese in general that made you want to go to Japan?
I think it was just, you know, that it started off with anime, but then my love for the language really bloomed, and I, you know, started self-studying the language. I love the music, I love the culture. Didn't really have much in touch with the food before I came here, but once I visited here, I also loved the food. So, you know, just everything about it sort of seemed to click for me. And then when I came here to study Japanese for a while, you know, it clicked for me. This is where I want to live the rest of my life. So that's how I sort of angled everything that I did until it worked out.
Yeah, and from what I remember, you were like very focused. After you came back from Japan the first time, I think you were like more focused after that. You kind of more than I've ever been really at like getting some sort of attainable goal kind of thing. You just kind of you figured out like there were like 5 points you needed just to like leave the country and get into Japan, and then you just kind of hunkered down and did it, and then you were just sort of gone after that.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, the first time I went, I was even before I finished university. So I actually did 1 year of actuarial science at university, and then I was like, no, this isn't what I want to do.
That's right.
I dropped out after getting the top top of my class. I dropped out, and then then I went to
Language school?
Japan for 9 months. Yes, at a language school in Aichi-ken.
Okay.
Is
Where's that?
near Nagoya, which is sort of
Oh, south.
on the
Yeah.
it's southeast side, but not as far as Kyushu. So
Yeah.
but it's a very small little
I
town,
kind of
actually.
love a Nagoya accent. It's sort of almost
yeah.
like middle country kind of.
Yeah. The thing is, it's not hard to understand, which is nice, right?
Yes, yeah,
It's not
broad.
completely out of.
Nagoya truck driver is my
figure it
favorite
out.
Japanese accent, I think. It's just fun to listen to. Anyway,
Yes.
so you went to language school. A lot of people like say
did.
like you don't really learn anything at language school. Is that kind of true or
I think it just
false?
depends on the type of person you are. Like I could see it when I was there. All the people that went there, they'd hang out with all the other foreign people, and they'd not actually use Japanese. They'd just speak with each other, then go to classes, and like it's basically the same as people trying to learn Afrikaans. In South Africa, they
Right.
don't because they don't care enough, right? So
Yeah.
I
Although,
think if you're going to go there, you have to make sure you're going to be using the language in as many sort of instances as you can. Obviously, I think it helps just to be in Japan to a certain degree, but to actually get a professional level of Japanese,
yeah.
it wouldn't be enough. I don't think. You'd
Yeah,
have to work
I
on it
think
more.
that applies to all languages. Really, you've got to kind of immerse yourself.
But like, so being in Japan is helpful, obviously, because you can put into practice your Japanese. But
Yes.
there are people in Japan who just like don't speak Japanese, and they've been there for like
definitely.
30 years.
Exactly. There's a lot of JET people I know, and even people that I met that they're at the same language school as me. They'd been in Japan for 3 years on the JET program, and then they changed to a student visa to stay a bit longer. That's a very common thing that a lot of people do, and they've been there for 3 years, and I could speak better Japanese than them having been there for like a month, because I don't know, they just never actually tried to use it outside of the classroom. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's almost
what
like
you
its
need to do.
own kind of subculture? There is sort of people that want to stay there but not integrate linguistically.
No, definitely. I think there's a lot of people like that, and
Foreigner pockets.
there's even specific places in Tokyo that people, foreigners sort of gather to. Non-Japanese speaking foreigners gather to.
There are
like,
like literally like English pubs and stuff you can go
Yeah,
to
that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
throughout
I remember
Tokyo.
the name,
And I mean,
but I've been to a lot of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even the language school I went to, one of the owners ran a pub close to it, and everyone would gather there and not speak Japanese. And I was like, no, that's not what
He was
do.
a savvy one.
Yeah, I mean,
Indeed. He's
So-
a cool guy. He was
yeah, no, go on. Yeah. Oh, anyway,
he was what's it called? I don't even think of the name now. What are those people from Ireland? Irish guy. I couldn't think of the country name. He was an Irish guy. He loved his Irish pub, his Irish.
okay, all right.
Oh wow, that would have been very popular. I would have imagined that would have been very popular with the Japanese people, but I suppose you found his click with foreigners.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of Japanese people that went there to sort of bathe in the foreigner.
foreign aspect.
Like,
Yeah, no, that
and get to
gaijin
practice their- and get
hunters,
to
right?
practice their
That's the kind
English.
of one of the
Exactly,
subcultures.
yeah.
For those of you that aren't aware, gaijin hunters are usually female people who are interested in finding a foreigner as like a dating option, I guess.
We've never successfully managed to find those whenever we've gone over, I have to say.
Well, you were usually like trailing a giant German man who was always angry behind you, so I'm not surprised.
That's true. That's true. I think also we just didn't figure out the right spots to go to, and also we weren't in Tokyo. We were in like the countryside. So.
Right.
Well, maybe we speak about learning Japanese just in a little bit. But after that, Kev, you went back to Japan. What, like 3 years after that? Something like that.
Correct. I came back to South Africa just to finish my degree. I needed a degree of some sort. I didn't care what it was. As long as I had a degree, I could, get a work visa in Japan. So
I remember you very angrily.
Degree I could possibly find.
Yeah.
And I went to UNISA and I got a degree in English.
And linguistics or something?
Business communication and linguistics.
Yeah. I just remember you very angrily typing out essays at some point.
And reading stupid books I didn't care about. And got that, and then I already kind of, from a very young age, I guess you could say, I had quite a lucky break. When I was about 15, I got in touch with a company in Japan that sells figures, good small company. They wanted me to translate their website. So I'd been translating it since I was 15 years old. And getting experience with that and getting to know their company as well. So when I eventually got my degree, I contacted them and was like, hey, I'd love to come and work in Japan with you guys. Is that a possibility? And they were like, sure. So that all worked out nicely.
How did you first get in touch with him? Was that through like a person-to-person contact, or did you just send him mail randomly, or how did
It
that come
was originally there's a he's not really a huge blogger anymore, but there was a you probably know Danny Chu, who used to do a whole bunch of Japanese
Yeah.
stuff on
Yeah,
his
yeah.
blog, but now he's a lot more into smart doll stuff. But he put out a post on his social media saying, "Hey, we're looking for translators. Does anyone want to translate this and send it to me? We want to find the best translators." And I translated it and sent it to him, and he liked my translation, so he got
Okay.
me to work on his translations. Then he introduced me to Good Small Company. So
Ah,
that was the
nice.
sort of lucky break connection, I guess, I got there.
Yeah,
Because
so you
you-
got to kind of.
Yeah, because you and your brother Greg had just been kind of learning Japanese when you were very small as well.
Yes.
I remember. I don't know if it was your influence, yeah, that sort of happened, or was Greg and you were you both interested in doing it at the time?
I think it was very much both of us separately that both liked the anime scene, both liked Japanese, so it wasn't really us influencing each other as much as just both being interested, I think.
Okay,
So,
right.
Yeah, it was very much like a sort of a cultural trend at that time, which was like some of the guys from Otaku Mag leading it as well, and you get like the peripheral crowd teaching in inverted commas Japanese.
Yeah,
yes.
everyone thought they were like an expert in Japanese at some point.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
but I mean, Kevin, you obviously got like really quite good for like a 15-year-old kid, to the point where you could translate a website. I mean,
Apparently. I mean, if I look back on those translations, I want to kick myself, but
Oh, I'm sure.
apparently they were good enough to
or there
get me
was
through. So.
no one else was good enough at English to see if it was bad or not.
Yeah, I honestly think it was more that I was good at writing in English
Yeah,
than it was that I was good at, translating Japanese. Just because the English sounded natural and the English sounded, how it should. It wasn't this robotic translation, word for word kind of thing that most
yeah,
people probably
yeah.
think.
That is problematic.
And that was actually the reason that I got that. I think just my English ability more than my Japanese ability, which is a bit stupid, but.
Well, I mean, I think it's actually quite an important point for people looking at translating.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
The two sides of the coin, not just the in between.
Exactly.
You do get people who are like very technically bilingual, but they're also kind of bad at language at the same time. And that person is almost useless as a translator, because they sort of get the idea of what something means, and they can more or less translate it into something that makes sense, but they can't sell the idea of the person who wants something very specific done, right? So Kev, was you always good at writing, right, in English, probably, and so you could.
Maybe I don't know. I guess so.
Well, good
say
enough.
It was my strongest point, to be perfectly honest. But
No.
yes.
Okay. Anyway, so that got you into Good Smile, right?
Correct.
And that's basically where you've been since, sort of, so to speak?
Yes. I quit that job in May this year, so I'm
Okay.
now
Now you're...
freelance stuff
What are you doing now?
Mostly, I'm still doing stuff for Good Small Company on the side, sort of contractually with them. Not translation, project management stuff and stuff like that.
Right.
And I'm also doing some freelance translating jobs on the side, but nothing huge at the moment other than the Good Small Company contractual stuff, because
Okay.
that's not going to last forever. It's probably about, end of this year, they'll probably find someone else to actually come in and do it instead.
Right. Let's just talk about a bit about what you did for Good Smile. So Good Smile is a model making company, basically, right? That's what I know them as.
Yes.
But they also have...
Japanese would be a
Yeah.
figure maker. No, they make figures.
Figures,
or figurines,
right.
more than anything. Yes.
Sure. I mean, so they make basically anime characters in 3D models. 3D figures, whatever. I don't know. I don't really know the scene that well, so I don't know
Real
what the
life
words are.
figures.
Real life waifu figures, yeah, exactly.
Things you can touch with your hands.
And other things.
Indeed.
So they also do make anime, right? You guys do. I've seen Good Smile's logo on a number of recent anime. Even not recent.
Well, there's a separate company that's a sister company called Good Smile Film that makes a lot, but they also have very deep ties with the industry, with Trigger and all Leiden Films, all those things, all the things under the Ultra Super Pictures brand, which was basically made in tandem with Good Smile Company's CEO. So they're sort of interconnected.
Yeah. So you guys had some involvement in like things like Cyberpunk.
Yes, I mean, not me personally, but the guy who was very deeply involved, I know from the company very well.
Okay.
He was very excited about it all the time. It was very fun watching him make that. He was so sure it was going to succeed, and hey, it did.
Yeah, no, it
Nice.
did. It did surprisingly well, I guess.
So just Chris
I
doesn't
really
like
hate
it.
it.
I wasn't mad about it either, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like actually, I really don't like watching it. It's not my thing, I guess.
It is,
but I do realize it's like actually like well animated, and there's a lot of work put into it. But
and other people like it, and that's a thing. It might not be okay, but it's a thing.
Indeed.
Yes.
But I mean, that's not the usual sort of anime I associate with Good Smile. It's usually like a more fluffy kind of anime. Like
I think the one that I recently there's that. I don't even know if you guys will know it. It's so off the radar. But there was the one called Warao Ars Notoria.
I haven't actually watched it, but yeah. I watched the first episode. Yeah. It looked very cute. There was a Saihata no Paladin, right?
I think we were on the production committee for that, but I don't think we were directly involved in it.
Right.
But I might be wrong. Don't quote me.
Right.
I wasn't exactly in the anime division. So.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, usually the things we see from Good Smile are more like the kind of cute girly kind of things, generally.
Yeah, I think the most well-known one that Good Smile Film has done is...
the
one that
quintuplets.
The name is not coming to my mind. That's it,
Hanayome. Quintessential quintuplets in English. Yeah, I think is correct.
The Japanese title now.
Gotubun?
Kotobo no Hanayome. Yes.
There we go.
Kotobo no Hanayome. I mean, the marketing and that's it's everywhere in Japan and all the companies and stuff and everything. So
I mean, it was like it was like a fun kind of mystery romance, It had an interesting premise, so I understand why it did well. Like has all the harem kind of prerequisites, and then you had like but which one is this person going to end up marrying of these 5 identical people? Yeah, so I mean that's a perfect kind of fit for a model making business, right? So you can make the figurines of all these people, and
a lot of the time making the anime is actually not that profitable. It's the merchandising behind it, right? So if you get a big hit from some anime series you create, the actual money behind that is marketing, all the merchandise and the t-shirts and the stuff you sell in the combini, and
right,
all the collaborations you can do with smartphone games. That's
stationery, all that sort of just selling the pictures to obsessed teenagers, I guess, is where it's at. At least as far as internally in Japan, yeah? Because, I mean, people outside of Japan don't really physically participate in, like, any of that stuff, I guess. I mean, I'm sure people do, like, order the models.
I don't have much of a read that side, but yeah. No, of course. No, the Good Smile Company is huge overseas.
Yeah.
More than half.
Do you guys sell your stuff through Crunchyroll? Well,
we do. I mean, not only, we have our own US company
as well.
Good Smile US, which I say we, it's not really we anymore, is it?
Yeah. Well.
They sell through their own store as well. They have distributors. They actually have a distribution company in the US as well. So
Right.
Oh wow.
um,
Yeah, they're huge. Eh?
quite a global thing.
Yeah. But they aren't like otaku caves. Generally, one assumes so much in like you see in Japan, outside of Japan, because the stuff is just harder to get. So
I don't know. I mean, I think you definitely do get them, right?
but I mean, they're much more
I've
rare,
definitely
right?
been-
On Reddit
I've
and stuff
definitely
that post
been
their
in
otaku
some.
caves.
I've definitely been in some this side. Whether or not it's at like a high, like a super common level is a different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to Reddit/anime figures, which is there's quite a few people there that post pictures of their room and stuff. And in the US and stuff, there are people that are very even bigger than Japan collectors in a lot of the senses because they actually have rooms big enough to place things in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't look as bad though because it's bigger. It's not just like a
Maybe,
a
and it's
room
more.
full
It is
of, like,
definitely more tasteful a lot of the time. I think they do it more artistically than the Japanese collectors. I find
it's not just T-shirts of anime girls on their walls or whatever. But anyway, not to mock people. I mean, do whatever you want, I guess.
That came across as completely not mocking.
I'm sure I achieved what I wanted to achieve with that remark.
Insert disclaimer here.
Hey,
Moving on.
yeah, it's fine. I have some anime figurine models. I'm not ashamed. Anyway, so Kev, you, like an anime is not really like profitable to make, is what you're saying? So
I mean, it really depends where and how you do it, right? Like if you budget right, and
I mean,
really,
I was kind of interested in how much does it cost to make an anime? Because I have a theory about an anime.
there are budgets going from ridiculously low amounts of sema yen, which I can't say in English, good like me.
1,000, 10,000. That'd be like $100,000 or something, right?
Sema yen. I don't know what currency do you want this in dollars?
Well, do it in dollars, though. Everyone knows dollars.
It feels like that's a standard.
Oh god, I put it brand by mistake.
Oh, just tell us the rands. We'll translate.
Would you like to phone a friend, Kevin, or play 50-50?
50-50, please.
Okay, it's like so one man, right? Ichiman is $100. So it's
This is a really interesting thing about Japanese, right? Like
it's literally $100,000. That has to be $100,000. Do math. We can do math.
Oh god, we're gonna have to
10
make a
million,
short from this.
10 million JPY. So
Here.
it's about $70,000. That's the low
Yeah,
end,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, with today's
But
awful
then
translation.
you get, if you something like, I mean, I don't actually know the budget for Cyberpunk. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. But high end, you're going easily into 50, 100 times that. So
Right.
it really just depends on the scope.
But I mean, even if it is
you're
like
trying to reach.
okay, so 100 times that. So let's say $7 million is like the highest end anime that can be made. It's probably
Don't quote me, but yes.
Guys, Kevin, we're gonna quote
Once
everything
again,
you
I'm
say.
not in the anime. I'm not in the anime
I'm
division.
even gonna go and subtitle the things you say so that people can read it as they hear it.
as quoted by Kevin. Insert surname at this
and
point
your
in
name
time.
and dox him at the same time. Dear
Um,
God, no.
But so some anime. Recently, there was something called, I don't know what the Japanese title is, but Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer that came out.
I've not even heard of it.
Okay, the reason you haven't heard of it is because it's terrible. But it felt like someone had just kind of maybe won the lottery and was like, this is a manga
anime.
I really like. Maybe I can just hire a company to do it for me. And, they had maybe like $200,000 to spend or something. So, I mean, that is kind of plausible I don't know. I don't know if a company would do that though, because it's probably not in their own interest to do so. I mean, if they can get more money from, say, like, making anime and then selling, like, popular memorabilia from it.
That the Japanese name was Hoshino Samidare, which is...
It's completely different, right? Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, you can definitely see, the levels of animation quality and stuff. It's just so different between something that's high budgeted and low budgeted. So, it sort of, as I said, you get low end budget animes all the time, just because people either are trying to get lucky, as I say, to try and maybe get into the merchandising bit rather, or
and
maybe it's just a really hardcore fans that would want it, so they're just targeting that with a relatively low amount of cash. But
yeah, I think like technically like the Fate series was a result of that kind of fan energy.
True, when it started, probably, and I think it just very much expanded from there.
Yeah, so I mean, it sometimes does work out. There's like a really low budget anime from last season, which I ended up quite liking. Kami-sama something. It's a very weird series. But and like very clearly no one spent any money on it. Like the CG is the worst CG I've seen since like the mid-90s. And it just has like a really dumb story, but I kind of wonder if something like that is just something you're trying to throw out there to see if there's any interest in just making like a weird thing. Like maybe a company just does that as an experiment to see if there is like a market for something. You know what I mean?
Perhaps. Yeah. I think the other thing is, back when I used to watch a lot of anime, there were like 10 anime studios.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And they all had their very specific sort of styles. A lot of them are still around, nowadays. But nowadays, there's a lot of small. I wouldn't say like indie. There are obviously a few people working on this stuff, but there's a lot of these like almost I've never heard of before companies that keep popping up more and more and more. And I think a lot of them outsource to China as well. So
I was gonna say, yeah. There's a lot of also Chinese anime coming through, I think.
Right. And I mean there's a lot of really good stuff as well. I know
exactly.
There's quite a boom nowadays for that weird
webcomic stuff, right? What's it?
That's like what's that? We made figures of it as well. So the reason I really don't know about it.
Bansegai is the Japanese name for one of them, and then there's another one with a kitsune as the main character. But they all have like Chinese names translated into Japanese. I don't know what they are.
Yeah. Anyway, that's becoming a much bigger thing in both Japan and overseas. I think the non-Japanese. Anime.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I suppose Korean anime as well is quite popular as well.
Yeah.
Although the Korean anime is
in Japan. Yeah. There's a lot of these. I mean, I'm just looking at the anime chart now. I don't even know half the companies on these things anymore.
Oh, I mean, 90% of the companies are Kadokawa.
OLM.
Yeah.
Open Track. Who are these companies?
What I assume is most of them are just a office in Tokyo, and they outsource to companies in Korea and China and Vietnam and so on and so forth to get their production done.
So I think most of those weird companies that no one knows the names of, those are pretty low budget animes.
Yeah,
almost guaranteed. They're just trying to make a hit so they can try and make their jump into the anime sphere.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you're
probably just disappear.
Yeah, but I mean, Kadokawa makes not with their own studios, but they make 40 anime a year now, which would have been the total amount of anime for like 2 years, basically when we were young, probably, right?
Once again, though, Kadokawa, I don't think they make a lot of money by making the anime.
No, for sure not. By
marketing that into their card games
and book sales,
merchandise and books and manga, and the anime is sort of like it's to create the IP That's why the anime exists, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, that's why we're never gonna get more Konosuba, because the series has ended for them. They've finished publishing the books. So we're not gonna get more of that because no one's buying the books anymore. Unfortunately, everyone. But I mean, you can see that quite clearly because we got like the Mega Man spin-off anime this year, I think.
Wow, yes, we did, didn't we? I remember seeing that, but never watching it.
And that has its own spin-off novel series. That's why that's coming out. It's not because they want to make more anime in that universe. It's just so they can sell more books.
Just sell books.
But yeah, that's the. I think it's. I almost wish I didn't know that about Karakawa, because there's sometimes like a really good anime that they'll make, and you're like, okay, I'm sure season 2 is coming at some point, and it never is. It's they're never gonna get it.
Yep.
Okay, Kev, if we can move to just like learning Japanese as like a little bit of a topic. You had like quite a interesting method. I remember.
Which one?
From when you were.
My general method was
from when you were like living with Greg. You said to me that you were basically just translating video games as your method of learning Japanese. Is that the main way?
That was more later on, I think. My primary method at the beginning was honestly just learning vocab through music. That was really where it started. I really like Japanese music. I learned to sing along. I mean, as soon as I sort of didn't know the lyrics to a song, I'd look up the lyrics and I'd, match the words. That's sort of how I picked up more and more words. Got a good vocabulary basis. And then I started thinking, hey, I know enough words. Let me start thinking about, trying to understand kanji and grammar and, the other important things of the language. So after, listening to a million songs, you do capture certain parts of grammar from that as well. I'd also watch anime. I don't know if I used to watch subtitled anime by covering the subtitles, listening to every single line, thinking what it would be, then looking at the translation and doing that constantly.
I tried that a bunch
myself.
When I was a kid. It was too much effort, I think.
It was a lot of effort, but I think it worked pretty well in the end. I don't know if Dylan will remember, but I always used to swear by the Pimslier's Japanese lessons.
I swear by the Pimslier's as a follow-on, senpai.
I don't even know what that is.
No,
they make you repeat stuff.
That's called shadowing. Yeah, that does work.
They also do the pronunciation backwards, which I found very effective as well.
What?
So they'll take a word like Nihongo, right, and then they'll start from the rear of the word, and they'll get you to pronounce the way it should sound within the word. So go, hongo, Nihongo, instead of trying to pronounce like a multi-syllabic word all in one go, where you'll start to miss beats. And so they introduce you that way, and then they'll also have like I wouldn't say they randomize it because it's set, the recordings are set the way they are, but they when they're getting you to practice during the audio tapes, they'll reintroduce words at a seemingly random interval as you're going through it. So it kind of has that same sort of flashcard effect that you use.
I do love flashcards.
But without the actual flashcard, right? They're prompting you sort of randomly. But
firing those.
I think that sounds useful whenever you have like someone's put together a system like that.
Yeah.
Because some people just won't make their own things, so that is.
Yeah, I found it really good as like a very entry level.
Definitely. That was like one of the starting things. But
get to be able to navigate the streets and like you can study that on the plane and almost be able to use it getting off of the plane. kind of idea.
Mhm.
If I do rapidly equip someone within a week, I'd be like, do this and only this, and then make sure you do
I would just
more.
say there's no point. Just don't bother.
Yeah, but that's just that it's really good at doing that, like rapidly familiarizing yourself. You can't read anything.
Oh, so it doesn't teach kanji or hiragana, katakana, anything like that?
No, it's just just sound. So
yeah, so
okay,
it's to be able to walk the streets and kind of navigate your way verbally rather than fully equip you. Yeah.
And okay, so that's what you did to kind of get your ear used to Japanese. You listened to songs.
yeah, I think that's sort of very much the grammar basics of grammar was through that. Right?
Although like
And I just sort of built on that.
song grammar is not normal grammar.
The interesting thing about Japanese is that, generally speaking, they do follow the rules of grammar in songs. Though, like, obviously, there's incorrect examples of that you've done to match the rhythm or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, you can figure out
Like ballads. I mean, you obviously follow sentence pattern normally and such things.
Yeah.
Like
Whether
the more synthetic the song is, the less there is. I feel. But yeah.
What particles should go where, kind of thing. Just that sort of basics from listening to a million songs. I would literally just have enough songs in my mind to reference to be able to think, hey, this verb should probably, have this.
It's strange how all the verbs go here at the end, right?
Yeah.
No, that is super useful because I mean it forces you just to accept the fact that it is a very different structure, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to get used to it.
Right. Then going on from that, because I didn't obviously have anything kanji related or writing related from that, I then used to, what I swore by was playing Phoenix Wright.
Okay.
Yes, I remember this.
Higiari.
Because that uses a lot of pretty hard kanji, and what I would do is, this is the same sort of method I used for learning the speech, is I'd play the game until there was a kanji I didn't know, and I would literally look up that kanji, note it down, and use flashcards to remember it until I never forgot it, and continue playing the game. You get a lot of repetition of kanji playing that game because all the chord stuff and the same names and the same concepts would come up over and over again, and you'd see them over and over and over again. So it's the same concept as playing one of these, kanji learning games or whatever. But I just did it in an actual game because that way it was just enjoyable to me. So,
I think those kanji learning games are like torture for whoever's doing it, and it's just a waste of time.
I mean, I did some of those as well for a while when I had a DS, but
Wanikani is the popular one.
I can't say.
I wouldn't suggest it in one. It costs $20 a month, and they perfectly structure it so it takes you 4 years to go through the course or something.
Jeez.
Which you can get through all like the what's it called, yojo kanji in like 5 months if you put your
What? That still seems like a while, but anyway.
Well, I mean, look,
for us mere mortals.
So if you do like 30 a day, you could do it in 3 months.
Okay.
But then you're gonna have a lot of like reviewing to do. Whereas if you do like 15 a day, it'll just be less work every day.
How many are there again? Aren't there like 2,000 of?
2,200 are the standard ones, and then there's a university level which takes up to 3,000. So if you do the 3,000, it'll take you more like 6 months.
Right. Side note: I can't write kanji anymore. Like, obviously, I did some when I did my Japanese learning school, but ever since working, I literally just use my PC. So
I think most people, probably even Japanese people, don't really write much kanji anymore, though, unless they have like a paperwork job.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and whenever you go to like City Hall and stuff,
that's true.
Struggle.
Yeah. But you have the right skin color, so people are like, oh, okay, I get it.
What I did learn was the kakijun, so I can always write it look correct.
The way of writing the kanji, yeah.
Yeah, the order of how you must do the strokes, right? So if I have it in front of me, I can write it. I just can't bring it up in my mind and write it, right?
Yeah.
I just look it up on my phone.
So I accidentally learned the Chinese the stroke order
Is it different?
It is
I would think it
different,
would be.
and it's much quicker. It's much quicker because it's designed so you can write much. Because obviously Chinese is only kanji, so you have to write it like a little bit quicker, right? There's no like hiragana, katakana in between. But yeah, so I also went to like a Japanese language school when I was at university there for a while, and the teacher was very upset with me because I wasn't writing the thing in the right stroke order or something. So
It would. They can figure it out by the way that looks, because you'll always have like the slide of the wrong way or something, or an extra line where they shouldn't be, or something like that.
Or sometimes they're a little bit different. Like Tengoku no Ten. That is just different in Japanese and Chinese. Like
be left to right, bottom to down.
Yeah, and you end up with what's 10 means like heaven, right?
Oh, you mean yeah.
So the way the stroke order in Chinese ends up with a slightly shorter top stroke, so it kind of looks more like husband than sky, so to speak.
Weird.
Yeah, so it does sort of matter, I guess. Although people would still be able to read what you're saying. It's not going to be confusing in a sentence or whatever.
So for like folks who aren't super familiar like me, is the difficulty in thinking of the right kanji now that you sort of have a PC in front of you, just because of how you would like essentially Japanese keyboard conversion works, that you get that asymmetry? Because I'm assuming you'd be able to read the kanji like naturally, right? You'd know what the kanji are, and
yes,
right.
Generally.
But when you've got to like write the word out, now to think of the kanji becomes a little more challenging that way around.
It depends what method
On
you
a
go
PC?
about.
Yeah, well, so I'm just asking why you're struggling with that.
Oh no, he means like filling out a form, right? Like if you go to the government office and you need like a passport or something.
Yeah. So
you have to do it all by actually writing by hand,
which is
yeah.
Which the only way you know how to write is by writing, right? And if you don't do that, it's difficult, especially when there's like 3,000 characters you need to remember. And then like the way like Japanese kids learn is it takes them, I believe, 9 years to acquire all of the kanji that they're expected to learn by the end of school. And then there's some extra for the university entrance exams and such things. But they just learn like 10 a week or something. And then they do like writing practice at home, where they just write out that kanji until they get familiar enough with it, and until it gets into like a muscle memory state. But like even now I assume like kids are probably getting a little bit worse at doing that, because writing by hand is just becoming less and less necessary.
Yeah. It's actually quite an interesting thing, is slightly diverging, but like another interesting thing is in Japan at the moment, it's quite an issue that kids don't actually use desktop PCs and keyboards much either anymore.
Yes.
They use smartphones.
God, it's so much easier to write
when they
Japanese with a phone than on your keyboard.
And it's funny because people that are actually coming out of university and getting into their first jobs now, they can't type on a keyboard. So there's actually companies now that make like smartphone keyboards that plug into desktop computers, right?
An interface.
No, I totally understand that. It's so much easier than using a Japanese keyboard. Those are the worst. Like the Microsoft
no one
Windows.
uses Japanese keyboard though. Even Japanese.
No. I mean like the
license.
software, like the Microsoft software for the Japanese keyboard. It's awful. It's like just.
Oh, yeah, but that Google input, man. Yay.
Okay, fine.
What?
But that's what I'm saying. Like doing it via your phone or like whatever is just easier.
Yeah.
I get that. That makes sense. But yeah, just on that point, like the way I learned kanji was by learning all like the radicals, the elements of the kanji, and then making flashcards where you make little mnemonic devices for them. So if you know, I don't know, like can't think of like a normal example now. Give me a kanji, Kevin.
Yutsu no yu.
Oh god, that's so complicated. Why?
Because you asked.
Okay, that's one. I know the way it looks because it's too complicated to remember all the little bits and pieces in it. But let me just.
What, you want like a better, simpler one? I don't know. Ski no.
Like the ski, like the moon, or ski like.
Ski no ski.
Ski. Okay.
SUKI. What you mnemonic to that there?
Well, I mean that one's it's a little bit difficult, right? I mean, but okay, so it's easy enough to understand though. So you have the first character is woman, Ona, and the second character is like ko, which I guess is where the sound comes from. Ko is as in child, and it means like, because and you can make a little like story in your head, like, oh, this is the woman I like. I want to have a child with her, right? And that would be your mnemonic. I'm not saying that's what like you should do for it, but whatever. But that's how you'd go about remembering what the meaning of the kanji is.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, like it is a little bit easier to kind of remember more complicated kanji, and how to write them. Although when they get more complicated to a certain point, you just kind of remember the pattern, and then you still can't write them. So it doesn't really help with handwriting. But yeah, your method sounds more enjoyable, I must say, than what I did.
I think you could like sort of combine them, and once you've got that basis from your mnemonics, you then play the game. It'll be a lot easier than having to look up pretty much everything from the get-go, right? So I highly recommend you go play Phoenix Wright in Japanese.
Oh god. Okay, so you did that for kanji. How did you get used to just sort of reading books and such? If that's
reading books,
or like doing your translation work and that sort of thing. Putting Japanese like together, as it were. You had your vocab, you had your kanji. Now you had to like kind of. It came
naturally to me after that. I think being in the country as well, just sort of being forced to use it. I mean, obviously at my job as well, there was no one that spoke English. So even at home nowadays, my wife is Japanese, so I just don't speak English. Everything was Japanese, so I just had to adapt and become, even nowadays I think in Japanese most of the time, just because that's how I've been for the last 13 years. Mm-hmm. Just sort of came together and clicked in that sense. There was nothing that sort of, brought them all together other than just being there in my mind simultaneously, kind of thing.
What kind of problems did you have with Japanese though? Like there must have been some things that were like more difficult.
Well, even now, I mean, every foreigner that has studied Japanese, there's things. It's basically active voice and passive voice in English.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's wrong in Japanese because I still get it wrong all the time. Like, it's jidoshi and tadoshi in Japanese, but. Even now, like I will get that wrong. But the thing is, if you get it wrong, no one is not going to understand you. Like, so, in fact, they won't even point it out. They don't even notice it's wrong most of the time, unless they're a Japanese teacher. So, it was never something that blocked my ability to speak Japanese effectively. Other than that...
It's funny, because we've had this conversation like several times, I think. You complaining about active and passive.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, there was obviously some roadblocks and stuff that sort of, on a technical level of Japanese that I think I needed to get over to sort of move my career forward in Japan. when I first came here, I was obviously just translating, but as I sort of spent 3 years or whatever doing translation work, I was able to, evolve my Japanese to actually be at a business level that people would be willing to hire me for other things like project management or, that
How-
level of work in Japan.
How's your pronunciation? Has that?
Everyone tells me it's good, but obviously that's not true. I would personally rate it on the higher end of people that speak Japanese in Japan
Right.
that I hear. But I can still, if I listen to myself speaking,
You can definitely tell, like
sounds weird
that's
to me
that's
still. Yeah,
that's like a foreigner
it doesn't
speaking.
sound natural.
Yeah.
A lot of the time when I phone like a dentist or something, I will speak on the phone and then I'll go in and they'll be like, "What? You're not Japanese?" And then I'll be like, "Okay, this person actually does look surprised." They're
You
not
should
just, like,
you should
nice.
respond straight away by saying, "Oh, I had my friend phone in for me,"
Yeah.
but like in perfect Japanese.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
And I mean, the other
sorry.
thing is,
No, you go.
Wait.
You go, Kev. Yeah.
sorry. I'm sure I've spoken to you about this before in the past as well, but my English personality and my Japanese personality are like completely different people. It's weird
Oh yeah.
to me, even when I think about it. Like, I have the Kevin that is speaking to you now, and if I came in here with my Japanese mindset, would just be a different person. Like, I
Can
wouldn't
you
be able to
describe
speak
the
about Same
difference?
stuff. It's so weird. It's just, I think I've sort of acclimated my mind towards the sort of Japanese culture when I speak in Japanese. So
Yeah.
everything I do and everything I sort of
Are
think about
you more
becomes
serious
more-
or?
Japanese, more serious, and obviously it's much harder for me to make word jokes, wordplay, and stuff in Japanese. I try here and there, obviously, all
Yeah.
the time, but I lose that element of my, speech to a certain degree, and
Yes.
just I would agree with the more serious to a certain degree, but even like on a work level, I feel like because I've never actually worked professionally in English, I'm much more professional than in Japanese than I am in English. Like,
Mm.
if I have to do an interview in English for a new job, I'd probably do worse than if I could do that interview in Japanese, just because I have more confidence
Interesting.
in sort of business speech
jargon and whatnot.
in
Yeah,
Japanese now.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So my adult mindset is more Japanese than it is English. So in a sense,
Yeah.
my English self has sort of been stuck in
University
Like-
level.
my 20s. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of a weird phenomenon, to be honest. It's interesting.
I mean, it makes sense to me because practically all of your professional life has been Japanese. My experience
much,
is that
yeah.
when I go into a job, I basically assume a persona to do the job, right? Like you're putting
Mhm.
on the professionalism,
That's true.
like it's a coat.
Right.
So I get that idea from those two levels. Whereas when I'm at home, I feel like I'm such a child. I'm like, there's no way I am in my 30s. What is going on?
Yeah. You feel that all the time.
So maybe the difference just seems so stark because you've never had that experience
That's true.
of what
It's
that
possible,
mantle
yeah.
is like in English. But yeah, I get it. That's very cool.
Okay. So you never actually you kind of targeted Japanese at various times, but you never went to like the extent of putting anything into like a really structured kind of learning methodology or anything like that.
No, not really. As I said, I sort of linked it to my hobbies more than anything, and I still stand by that method. Like, if you
Well, like-
can't do that,
So
I think that's important, right? You're
Yeah, no,
incorporating it
it
into your
is.
lifestyle, like
Mhm.
heavily. You're not treating it as a separate thing.
you're probably not aware of. I don't know if you ever maybe read like Katsumoto's blog, All Japanese All the Time, when you were learning
I
Japanese.
think I've heard of it, but I don't know if I look at it, maybe it'll jog the memory.
No, it's quite old now. But it's like a immersion-based Japanese kind of way of studying. I'd be interested. Let me just grab it quickly and see if you think it's like a good idea or bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
It's a method of learning Japanese where you cut out as much whatever your native language is as possible. So the crazy people who go to kind of like go a bit overboard, they will try not to talk to people in English throughout the day. They will only listen to like the Japanese news, read Japanese things, use Japanese internet, change their phone settings and such to Japanese, and then like, watch anime programs and such. Then they will learn kanji, basically the sort of method I did, but they'll go a little bit more hardcore and do it more quickly so that they can get to reading more quickly. And then basically they do this for a 3-year period, I believe, until they're effectively believe they're fluent in Japanese. So
that's basically a very effective method to me.
Would you have done something like that? If you go back,
I think it would take a lot of mental
discipline. Yeah, for sure.
Discipline. If you can do it, I think that's the way to do it, right? Like as I said from the get-go, all the people that come to Japan and then Keikyoku end up speaking all the people that come to Japan and
don't speak Japanese. Yeah, can't speak Japanese.
Yeah, don't speak Japanese in the end at all. They don't. They're basically doing the opposite of this, right? Like they're in Japan, but they're doing all English all the time.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
And that's completely destroyed it, and they end up not learning Japanese. So this is, even if you're in your own native country, if you force yourself to only see Japanese, and you actually have the mental discipline to stick at it, I think it's very effective. But at the same time, I can tell you, when I use Photoshop, even at work and stuff, I used to have it in Japanese, and it was frustrating for me. It is so frustrating to use something like Photoshop in Japanese for me. Even now, after 13 years, I can read any kanji in that program without an issue. I can tell you right now. But
you wouldn't know what the word is, right?
Any day of the week, because it is just frustrating, to me. So if you have the mental discipline to do that and stick with it, I think it is an incredibly effective method.
So I've heard someone describe it as, sure, you can do anything you can do normally with a pair of latex gloves on, but it's more difficult to do it, and that's kind of what you're doing. You're using a method that's just slightly slower and therefore slightly more irritating to do something you could do more effectively in your Photoshop analogy or whatever, right? Because you know the words in English, you don't have to think about them. But if they're in Japanese, you'll have to translate them before you can know for sure that you're clicking on the right thing, right? You're like, sakujo, what's that? Let me find out what that is. Let me just try by clicking on it, and then suddenly your whole document is just gone, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a weird phenomenon to me because, as I say, I don't even need to translate the words. I know what they mean, but it just feels more natural to do anything in English. That's just how it is. I think it's the same for anyone, no matter how fluent they are in Japanese, right? If they're native English, it just feels more natural.
Yeah.
And, in the past, I would have stuck by doing it in Japanese or whatever, but it gets to a point where I wanted to, have speed and ability more than forcing this all Japanese all the time kind of thing. So if you're doing it to learn Japanese, I think it's an incredibly effective tool to try that.
But
the thing is in particularly in sort of South Africa or something, I find that would be very difficult to do, right? Just because no one else can speak Japanese.
It would be impossible. I mean, maybe if I was 14 again, and I just decided to cut out my social circle at school for some reason, it would be possible. I don't think it wouldn't have been possible when I was actually 14, because the internet wasn't really good enough to do that sort of stuff. Because it requires downloading a lot of Japanese content and then using programs that didn't really exist back then and such things, probably to record your stuff.
I remember the days of downloading anime at 10 kilobytes per second and being all excited when I finished one episode.
Right? If you're lucky,
Okay.
you get your download one a day.
Those are the days.
Yeah. I don't know. Every now and then, Greg would come to the club room with a hard drive, with just anime on it, and he was like, revered as the deity that people thought he was.
Yes.
But yeah,
Most of it was just stolen from someone else anyway.
yeah, it was just LAN party stuff that someone had
Yeah.
for like 480p quality, kind of, or less maybe.
Yep.
But that's all you could get back then. But I mean, before that, it would have been you would have actually had to buy DVDs, right?
Yeah. All
And-
the pirated ones as well, that although to sell in all weird places.
Yeah. I've got a copy of Nadesco, and it's a pirated copy I bought from AnimeWorks. It's amazing. The translation on that, the English translation is amazing. It's clearly done by someone who doesn't actually speak English, or they ran it through a program like in the mid 2000s to translate it.
Yeah.
But it's sort of
I remember there were quite a few of those.
yeah.
Terrible translations.
God, it's awful. But and like part of like the old Japanese all the time thing is getting Japanese subtitles. So, actual written Japanese subtitles onto your screen, which is useful because if you don't know
It's
what
great
someone's
in the current
saying,
era, right? Because
Exactly.
Netflix and stuff will almost always have the
yeah,
Japanese.
Netflix always has. Yeah. Do you know why? Do you have Amazon Prime?
I do.
Like they often won't have like subtitles, and they often don't have them in like a really strange way. For example, I was watching Owl No Orchestra, which is just an anime about like an orchestra club or something, and
Yes.
the first half of it has subtitles. The first 7 episodes have Japanese subtitles, and then like the last half, just someone gave up. It seems it's such a weird.
I wonder if they actually look at stats and stuff and just see that no one was using them, or if it just hey, no one's using them. Let's not waste time putting these in. Or something. It's weird.
No, it almost feels like someone was fired like mid-season, and they never replaced the person who put the subtitles, or something like that. It's such a strange. It's like a strange thing to do because one assumes like they just have the files, right? It's probably like a law or something if you want to broadcast something on TV that you must have subtitle files. One assumes. But
I guess. I don't know.
well, I don't actually know. It's like a strange phenomenon.
In everything on Japanese TV, obviously, always has the stupid, brightly colored pink and yellow subtitles that you can always turn on. So I think that's definitely a requirement. But when it comes to like Amazon Prime and stuff,
But yeah,
that's their platform, right? So
But no, what I mean is like the company that makes them is probably the company that's responsible for uploading the subtitles. So it's probably their. I mean, everything on like that Amazon makes on Amazon Prime has subtitles in every language it's available in, right? So that's obviously Amazon's responsibility. And Netflix does like a service where they do just add subtitles to everything they do, which is great. That's the best reason you should use Netflix if you're like learning Japanese.
Right.
Unfortunately, like Netflix doesn't have everything you want to watch on it, right? So,
Indeed.
but it's a strange one. I know no one's listening to me, but I will continue complaining about that.
One day they will.
One day.
I've never, I don't watch a huge amount on Amazon Prime, but are you using the Japanese version, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Legally VPNing and kind of thing. So everything's it's set to the well. I mean, you have to use the Japanese one, otherwise you don't get like the Japanese programming. And if you if you use Amazon Prime to watch anime, it's in English. It's always dubbed in English. It's very very upsetting sometimes.
Right. Because I'm opening random things on Amazon Prime now, and they all seem to have subtitles.
Right. I mean,
Maybe it's just it depends on the series.
if you go to like something that's like kind of newly released, probably what you'll find it won't have.
Yeah,
Goku Shifudo. Goku Shifudo was the one that I was just like.
That does have subtitles. Goku.
The live action.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's on Netflix, so Netflix added them to it. I don't know if it does on anything else.
So it's not on. The point is, it's on Netflix Japan.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have English subtitles. No. I'm sorry, Dylan. It probably never will.
I hate you.
You just have to learn Japanese, as we've said many times.
The new episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen.
So if you go specifically to Owl No Orchestra, Okusutora,
Prime Video, yeah. Okay.
You'll see like the first 7 or so have subtitles, and then like the last half, just someone gave up. Yeah.
Okay, one had. Let's go to.
Like just scroll down to the end of it.
15.
Yeah.
15. Yeah, doesn't have.
Yeah. It's so strange. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like one assumes like it would just be part of the process of someone's job at the company that's uploading them. Just check it has subtitles. You have them probably because you've done the first 7. Yeah,
Netflix outsources most of their translations to Zoo subtitles or something, and they all do it through there. So maybe Amazon Prime, do they do them in-house? Does the company that...
I'm sure it's the company that does it, because things that have subtitles on Amazon Prime are usually like a few companies that are uploading the thing. Right. Most of the stuff on Amazon Prime just doesn't have any subtitles, at least the newest stuff. Oh, and especially older stuff as well. Even things that definitely would have subtitles, like you can watch, for example, Dragon Ball Super. There's the new movie on Amazon Prime. What's it called? Superhero, something like that. The one with Piccolo. It doesn't have any subtitles. But like I know it does have Japanese subtitles because I've watched a version of it with Japanese subtitles before. Anyway, Kev, I mean, thanks for coming on, I guess.
Oh,
sure. I mean, I've been very interesting, but
I think
anytime.
you have. I think you have. There's a lot more that we could bring you on to talk about in the future as well.
Yeah,
things like living in the Japanese mountainside.
Yes, actually, we'll have to break that up into
Japanese game localization.
Japanese game localization. I mean, let's keep these for like future show notes. Living with a Japanese family life.
Yeah, your experience moving out into the middle of nowhere.
I don't think mine's a very good example of that, but sure.
Japanese cats.
Exactly the most Japanese people. Japanese cats. I have lots of those, yes.
Yeah.
My Japanese Scottish fold.
That must be a cute cat.
The best Japanese cuisine that you learn to love.
Oh yeah, Kev, what's your
curry?
What's your curry? Yeah. The most Japanese of foods.
We introduced Yesh to that the other day for the first time ever.
Yeah.
He liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he'd ever order it as its own thing, but it wasn't terrible for him.
It's so amazing, right? Like
science-based curry.
So many different kinds of like curry as well, and like depending on the shop you go to, it's always different. Like I don't know if you guys have had kokoichi or whatever, but
I have.
I love kokoichi curry.
Yeah, we were actually speaking about that the other day. Have you had the hottest
recently
version?
Released the level 15, right?
Ooh, my god.
The highest I've ever gone is 6.
Yeah. I got to 5.
Quite
I think.
mad for me. But apparently, from someone I know who has had the 15, like
Jesus,
they always ordered a 10, and going to 15 had almost no difference to them. So Maybe they're putting in more spice.
I think
but
I
you
think
can't
by that
actually
stage,
tell.
your like at that stage, your pain receptors are literally in
Yeah.
saturation.
I mean-
I don't think your body could register anything hotter because it's busy dying. Like,
Yeah.
They're just like it's not like you're on hot ones. You don't have to be in pain when you eat food. That's
but by the way, it sounds like hot ones would be like a cakewalk for the people that enjoy.
well,
whatever
it is
the
kind of
food
worse
cooking.
because I mean curry kind of sticks to everything in your mouth because it's a
Yeah.
sauce, you know. So
Yeah.
it just stays there for several minutes at least. Whereas you could just swallow the chicken wings. So anyway, this has been the Japanese thing.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for listening. Ciao for now.
Bye.
Very well.